Well, you touched on this. 50 Cent, Big Me are going at it. And apparently, it was after Meech took a photo of Rick Ross. I called that when everybody thought I was crazy, right? And also, I guess, the whole upcoming Welcome Home concert. I think it was more the picture, but RI, it was more the picture. But, it's interesting how this is sort of playing out, 50 put a picture of a rat with, I think on Big Meech with a caption. The biggest mistake he ever made was not sustaining his relationship with Tammy Cowan. Her tell-all documentary reveals the truth. So Tammy was the one that Meech sold his life rights to, right? Yes. And they're saying that she was the one that he was doing third-party cooperations with. That's a fact. Okay, we got that paperwork. Oh, you got the paperwork. That's a fact. Okay, so according to you, what you said was, Meech's confidant, Tammy Cowins, allegedly told 50 of the times that Meech told her to conspire with federal authorities and other street cases. He also said that Tammy Cowins had two possible reasons to turn on Meech. Meech wanted to get his life rights back, or she felt abandoned by him when he got out of jail. Yeah, I mean, when you're sitting back, you think about it. Right, but you got a female that's running for you while you're in prison, putting her life on the line, you entrusting in her to keep your secrets. Right, you can sign over your life rights and all these things. Right, I know the conversation as an inmate that we have with women. Baby is me and you, right? I gave a life right to you. I didn't give to my baby mama. I didn't gave them to you. I need you to do this thing. Like, make this happen. And she's doing all these things, right? And then he gets out of paroles to his baby. Bubbly, look, I've seen this so many times. These women who hold these men down for years. These middle-aged women, who are holding this guy down for 5, 10 years. They get out and this dude has a little bit of fame. These girls are popping up with B-bells and everything, a bunch of stuff they've never seen before, when they got locked up, bro, and they're going to lose their mind. And that older female that's been holding them down is, yeah, I'll hit you back. I've seen it happen over and over again, without naming any names. So once Meech comes home, being the boss type of guy he is, what's the first thing? He gonna want to take back control of his life. Rights, boom. Where is he living? Lil Mech baby, Mama Lil Mech, Mama M, right? Right. She's emotional, who she been working with the last 4 or 5 years. 50 soon, as she confides and needs that shoulder. 50 going to give it to her. Now you say, well, why they were good. Rick Ross hadn't done any of these things. Hey man, 48 laws of power. Right 50 is going to prepare itself in the event, or just in case. You do try to do something to violate it. Look, this is going to get ugly. This C thing, this is going to get interesting. Because like Lil Meech was texting 50, which he posted. He basically said she needed Ross, but he gave my dad some bread so he could afford to pay his bills until our next season starts. And he responded, what next season? Little Ninja, he triggered 50. Yeah, I'ma tell you why you remember this. What was F50, son running around doing? Oh, Maris, he was running around with all his ops, yeah, right. So when he sees this, he looking at like little, you supposed to be standing with your daddy. Now you should told me your daddy broke. You didn't diss Rick Ross, so if you'll do him like that, you'll do me like that. You collateral damage anyway. Your brother, I ain't never going against you. But god damn it. Just the way I feel, he said. Who you are and what you stand for, what you represent is greater than bigger than that. The man known as Wack100 has built himself something of a hip-hop empire for himself over the span of nearly 20 years in the business. A feat that's more impressive when you take into consideration the fact that a majority of his headlines often involve Wack100. Laying hands on someone, or at the very least threatening to do so. I mean, just ask 21 Savage Stitches, or J-Rock, all of whom have at least one story to tell about the man's wicked temper. Then there is outspoken opinions on deceased rappers like Tupac and Nipsey Hussle. But here's the thing, unlike most other rappers or wannabes, Wack100 has done his time to earn the street cred. I'll look back on his history in this newest episode of Before They Were Famous and will tell you all about it. Music, Wack100 was born Cash Jones on April 7th, 1978 in Pacoima, California. For those of you who aren't familiar with that part of the country, It's the area of LA country that's run by the Poima Pyro Bloods gang, a group that has been active since the 1980s and is reported to have a brutal reputation for violence and homicide. It was this very gang that a young Cash Jones became affiliated with, and while just still being a teenager, a decision that would come to shape his life for better and for worse. For instance, by 1992, Cash was only 15 years old, but already an inmate serving time at Fred C. Newell's Youth Correction Facility in Whittier, California. Prior to serving this sentence, Cash met the woman that he would wind up spending the next 30 years of his life with, Kimberly Jones. From that point on, Kim would faithfully visit her new boyfriend during his stay at the correctional facility, as well as other sentences that are still yet to come. By the following year, Cash had returned home and immediately hit the streets once more to provide for his family. Unfortunately, at 18 years old, he would find himself locked up once again. Being old enough to be tried as an adult this time meant he was on his way to state prison instead of just a juvenile detention center. They sentenced me to state prisons, but everybody asked and everybody where they from. So that at that point in time, blood is outnumbered everywhere you go, right? But I'm a Y baby, so I'm a firecracker. Right. So I jump up, tell them where I'm from. I'm the only one in there from the red side, right. So, at that point, they go to we got us one Wack100, wind up serving about 4.5 years and wouldn't get out until he was 22 when he returned home. This time, it was to Kim and his newborn son, Devin, who Cash's prison sentence had kept him away from. For the first few years of his life with his baby boy in his arms, Cash promised Devin that he would never leave him again. Sadly, that wouldn't turn out to be the case, as Cash would serve a further 9 months for parole violation only weeks after returning home in the first place. But once Cash walked out of prison, a free man in 1999, he finally kept his promise to his son. Now, when people ask him about his past and why he's finally abandoned the street life, he tells him it's because he knows all too well. Now the cost that prison takes from you rather than dedicate his life to a revolving door of jail sentences. Cash Jones reinvented himself as hip-hop manager extraordinaire. Wack100, and one of his first big clients was none other than West Coast rapper, The Game, who we have covered and done aware, they now on as well. Early on in his career, The Game was managed by Jimmy Henchman, but wasn't always getting the best advice from his right-hand man. In fact, Jimmy helped instigate the infamous Juju not beef between The Game and 50 Cent in the mid-2000s. It was a situation where it was teacher and student, and I think out of the whole G-Unit crew game was a teacher in the making, and then 50, he run his with an iron fist, so I think it was a clash going on. And before 50 kind of realized, it Game kind of seen that this is going to restrict me eventually. However, Jimmy would find himself incarcerated for unrelated drug charges around the same time The Game hooked up with Wack100, who's sensing an opportunity. Quickly set to work, making peace between the two high-profile rappers. Wack got both men in the same room, and before long, the two were whispering and giggling with one another. Soon after, Wack100 was now the acting manager of The Game. A few years later, he'd also begin to represent up-and-coming rapper. Everybody I knew. I wanted some money. I said, you just followed the bag, unless they was paying me. Yeah. She talking about, if you're in pain for a while, Wack100 simply sat behind and successfully managed two of the biggest rappers in the world. Okay, one of the biggest rappers in the world, and also Blueface. But the more and more involved he got in the music industry, the more his ambition edgery.